go.
Okay, welcome to the July 21st meeting of the Fall River Sewer Commission. Pursuant to the open meeting law, any person may make an audio or video recording of this public meeting or may transmit the meeting through any medium. Attendees are therefore advised that such recordings or transmissions are being made, whether perceived or unperceived, by those present and are deemed acknowledged and permissible. Okay. I see that our packet has been provided to us. Thank you. It seems like we've got a pretty lengthy meeting tonight. First item on the agenda is citizen input. Do we have any citizen input, Mr. Ferland?
We have two people that are here for stormwater appeals, so if you'd like, we can discuss that under stormwater appeals.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is John Narciso.
Could you hold on a minute?
Sure.
Sure.
So,
First of all, we need to do a roll call.
yep, roll call. Member Bernier,
Here, President.
Member Souza,
Here,
President Almeida,
Present.
and Member Howiak is not present. If you would like, we can take item number 4 out of order. If you'd like to
Okay.
do that.
I don't think it's going to take us too long.
Okay, to get through the first two.
Get through the first two, okay?
Okay.
So there's no citizen input.
Nope, no citizens.
Okay, takes us to item number 2, election of officers. I guess what we're about to do is a result of the new charter that went into effect. What were the problem we had with the pandemic last year and so forth, and us going Zoom? At present, it wasn't logical for us to hold an election.
Yeah.
It would have been kind of tough going over the screen and everything else. So we've been provided with a ballot for voting for president and to vote for vice president and secretary. We have to do it by roll call. So we've been provided with ballots. So we're to fill these out right now. Am I
Yep.
correct?
Correct,
And provide them to you.
correct.
Okay.
Thank you.
just one person we're voting for, right?
Just one person.
Thank you. So, unanimous ballot vote for president of the Fall River Sewer Commission. One vote for Ned Almeida. Another vote for Ned Almeida. A third vote for Ned Almeida. 3 votes for president for Mr. Ned Almeida.
Thank you. Appreciate your support, and I want to issue my thanks also to the staff for providing any information I need and being right there when we need it and so forth. So, again, I just hope the year we're entering into is a lot more productive in ways that the pandemic wasn't. So let's move on. Thank you very much, everybody. Okay. Minutes of the previous meeting, we provided those.
Votes of vice president and.
Oh, I'm sorry, you're right.
secretary.
Okay, I guess this is at one point in time where I can make a motion. I make a motion that we appoint Ron Bernie as vice president. Anybody want to second that?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, none? So be it.
Roll call vote on that. Member Bernier,
Yes.
Member Souza,
Yeah,
and President Almeida.
Yes.
Thank you.
Secretary clerk, I'll make a motion to reappoint Renee Howiak.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
aye, yeah,
Opposed? None? Okay.
Roll call vote on that. Member Bernier,
Yes.
Member Souza,
yeah,
and President Almeida.
Yes. Okay, so that settles that issue. Okay, item number 4, stormwater repeal. We have two appeals tonight, or is it just one?
Number 3, the minutes.
Oh, the minutes. I'm jumping quick, aren't I?
Yeah, you're
I'm trying to get through this. All right. Minutes of the previous meeting. We've been provided with the minutes of the previous meeting held on June 3rd and July 13th. Do we have to approve each one individually, or can we approve both of them at one time?
You can approve both.
Okay, I've read through them. I have no problem with them. If you haven't had the opportunity to do it, you want a couple of minutes to look through it, be my guest. If not, if you've done it, you feel as though it's adequate and correct, I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the previous meeting held on June 3rd, 2021, and July 13th, 2021.
Make a motion to accept.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
You gonna do a roll call on that? No?
Nope, we're present, so
We're all here. Okay. Finally, we're getting to the point where we've gotten to the item number 4, stormwater appeals.
yes, correct.
What do we have?
So tonight we have 2 stormwater appeals, and I appreciate these appellants' patience in working with us through the COVID time. It was a difficult time to try to get appellants in front of public meeting, because we haven't had public meetings in a
Right.
year and a half, almost 2 years, so.
Right, right.
We have John and Cheryl Narciso from 360 Yellow Hill Road, and another appellant is also Evelyn Narciso from 300 Yellow Hill Road.
This couple here, from both,
Mr. Chairman, yeah, that's my parents, 85 and 92 last week.
Okay.
They couldn't make it here, so I'm here on their behalf as well as myself and my wife.
the other one at the end of the road.
I'm the guy at the end of the road, absolutely.
All right, okay. All right, so they're appealing their stormwater fee.
Yes, they are. So it was about a year and a half ago or so, we implemented stormwater fee to areas that there was no stormwater fee in the past, prior to the changes that were made in 2010-2011 timeframe. They wouldn't be eligible for a stormwater fee, but now with the changes that were made to the ordinance at that time, review of everything, they are eligible for a stormwater fee. So if you want, I'll go through just the locations of their property. So this slide, we can have buried. 360 Yellow Hill Road, 300 Yellow Hill Road. So Yellow Hill Road comes up from Copacut Road, Dartmouth line is over here. These are all Fall River residents. Yellow Hill Road continues all the way up through the reservation, ties back into Blossom Road, and then down into Westport.
Excuse me, the reservation, am I correct, stops right after your house?
The bioreserve surrounds my property, about 3,000 acres.
Yep. So this is land that's owned by the state of Massachusetts. Properties over here, these are privately owned. Property over here was acquired by the water department a couple of years ago. Next slide. So just the aerial photography of the 2 houses. So that's the cluster of houses that's in that area. So this is that property, 360, 300 Yellow Hill Road. Their stormwater flow, there is a depressed area just to the side of their house. Some stormwater flow flows from their house into the surrounding areas. We have a culvert that crosses Yellow Hill Road right in this area. Flow goes through this undefined flow path over land. We have a defined culvert over here that crosses underneath an area, and then we pathway, and then we also have a RCP culvert that crosses underneath Copacut Road and then flows out into Copacut Reservoir.
So, excuse me,
Yep.
so with respect to 360, from what I was able to observe, because I saw your property today.
Oh, nice. Was that you in the blue car?
That was me in the blue car.
Okay, that
'cause
was me in the garage. Saying,
Yeah,
"Who's this guy
yeah,
sitting down in front of my house?"
I said to my wife, I says, that gentleman probably thinks we're casing his house, I hope not.
We always watch the area because
Yeah, yeah,
you've been out there, you
you're
can
right
see
on the
why.
end of the
I
road.
bet you couldn't find the culvert.
I was looking for it.
Yeah. The dry culvert that's on my property.
Right.
Yeah. Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, so,
Could-
I kind of surmised what you were talking about there, Terry, because, Terry, I should say Paul. Because, you know, I got a feel from his property that, you know, a lot of it is going to be happening, that's going to be falling off probably, probably just beyond his property and towards the back and so forth, but, yeah, so that culvert that goes under the road and everything else, naturally, that's all stuff that we have to have access to make sure it's flowing properly and heading towards the Cobra Cut.
Yep.
Am I right?
I can't give you some history to the culvert, sir. It's been there at least 80 years.
Excuse me?
The culvert's been there at least 80 years.
Yes.
I've lived in the area quite some time. It's pretty much a dry culvert. Peter, please, Paul, I have a student, Peter Phil, and every time I hit Phil and I see you, Peter, Paul, I'm
No,
terribly sorry.
that's fine.
It's been dry for several years. My family's been living out there for well over 6 decades. The Copper Cut Reservoir was purchased from a family member. There used to be the Dutch Bell Farm, Davy Souza. The city of Florida purchased the land because of the natural springs for the Copper Cut Reservoir. The culvert has 80, as you see today, 80, 90-foot pine trees. I'm not a botanist, but I know pine trees don't survive in wetland or wet conditions. I have one downspout that supposedly goes up my driveway and goes 3.4 miles to Blossom Road to a catch basin. All of us, and I'm speaking on behalf of the 14 residents of Yellow Hill Road, we have a Dartmouth mailing address. We're so far on the edge. We have to travel through Dartmouth and Westport to get to our jobs in Florida. Because as you've seen, the direction you came today, the road's impassable.
Oh, yeah.
We just don't understand how we're impacting the wastewater of the city of Florida after being out there for decades. Decades.
Well, in the final analysis, you do.
How's that, sir?
Well, we have a culvert there.
On my property.
Well, if it's on your property, then it's at some point, it's flowing towards a Copper Cut. And that being the case, that line in itself, we have to have access to. And based on the ordinance that was put into effect back in, Paul, what?
2010, 2011.
2011, 2000.
Yeah.
On that basis there, where we as a sewer commission have to have access to all waterways that flow into our property or into our ponds or things of that nature, then we have to have resource to be able to get to it and deal with it.
I understand, sir, but there's nothing flowing there, Mr. Chairman.
Well, I understand that, but that you still, in my opinion, have access to that. So, you haven't, they haven't been paying any stormwater, I'm assuming, since when?
My parents have.
Right,
My parents have. I made one payment, and I haven't seen any more payments.
When did he start getting billed for it?
There was a letter they spoke of which we never received. We started receiving bills, and we paid them, obviously. It's a bill from the city, we're gonna pay them. I deny that.
Yep, so November 2020 was when we,
My mom's been paying quarterly.
yes. That's correct, so count 300, there was, got no balance.
So we're not looking at something that goes back several years,
Yep.
right? Okay, so this is fairly recent?
Correct.
Okay.
Again, so when we went through and we reevaluated, and we're still in the process of looking at different areas of the city to see who's eligible underneath the changes that occurred in the 2010, 2011, the changes from the ordinance. We're still in the process of reviewing that and still finding some areas that we need to update the records on.
Okay, but it's, this gentleman's here because, and his wife, because you basically said, you know, we can't
Yes.
agree with the fact,
So-
with your appeal, and so it's come across our board and so forth. We're at this point.
Yep, so my feeling was that the stormwater eventually flows through culverts, streams, or ponds that we have control structures on, which is what the ordinance states.
Right.
Eventually, the flow path makes its way there. Again, in, you know, stormwater ordinance, we're not saying that every drop of water that runs off of any property goes all the way to there,
Right.
but it's an overall impact of the impervious surface that definitely increases the runoff from any property.
What's your last name, sir?
Narciso, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Narciso, prior to 2011 or 12, when the ordinance changed, you know, there was quite a bit of gray area. But once it was changed, and at that time, it's pretty clear cut and dry to us as to just what we have rights to and what we can expect. I can understand your point, but at this point in time, unless my other commissioners feel like, you know, just maybe in another direction, I can't approve your repeal.
Now, this ordinance was changed by the city council subcommittee,
It was changed through the city council,
through the
correct?
city council.
Right, through,
And
through,
it was
probably
presented-
through their ordinance committee.
It was presented to their ordinance committee through this board.
By this board to that ordinance
I
committee.
just want to understand the process.
Right. Right,
So the dry culvert that's on my property, I'm gonna be receiving a fee for, that doesn't impact the city, is what you're telling me. That's what you're telling me. And my parents, who's further down the road, are gonna be receiving a fee for that as well.
right.
And this decision was made tonight?
No, you received a letter from Mr. Ferlin, you should have at some point.
Yeah, I understand.
Stating
The letter-
that
the
he
letter's a bit of a
disagreed, but
drama.
you're appealing it and you're coming to us and we're gonna decide your appeal.
Well, Mr. Chairman, we never received a letter that this was coming. All my neighbors, all 14 of us in that area, never received a letter. We just started receiving a fee. That's when we called about it.
Okay.
Then we said, well, the ordinance committee passed this through CMR, and I'm familiar with the CMR process and how it works, and I understand the State Board of Licensing. I'm very familiar with the process
Right.
there. Through this CMR and this general law, we didn't even know it was coming. We just started receiving
Okay,
a fee for it. And that's when we went to appeal. That's when we went to appeal about a year ago.
okay. I gotta look at Mr. Ferlin and maybe there was an oversight and so forth, but you're at the point where you're saying you don't think you should pay it,
Absolutely not.
right? And we're telling you either verbally or whatever, that, you know, he runs this department, he has to, maintain it and operate it and so forth,
Understand.
based on what's
I
there.
understand there was a shortfall
Okay.
a year ago before the city council took it. I
And,
understand as well.
And you're here to say, hey, you know, I don't think so, and so we're gonna make a judgment on that.
I understand, it's not just. And this judgment's being made right here at this meeting,
That's correct.
because I know, I spoke to Mr. Souza back in October, and he already told me it was denied. So at
Well-
another gathering we were at, so that's why it's a little.
Well,
gray
we're all
area.
here, you know, so this is, at this point, hopefully we can finalize it in your mind, in our mind. So, speaking for myself, unless you gentlemen have anything you wanna say?
There's, according to the ordinance, even if you were doing something to treat all of the water coming from the sky in your own property, it still doesn't alleviate this. They drew up an ordinance, and unless you have a property that's going directly into the Taunton River, for instance, it's probably the only place in the whole city that wouldn't come and comply under this ordinance.
Yeah.
Basically, it's a way that the residents share the total cost for, water runoff that's gonna be paid by the entire,
I have no problem, Commissioner Bernier,
yeah,
paying my fair share.
yeah.
But if my neighbor 3 houses down puts in the driveway, I shouldn't have to pay my fair share for the driveway I'm not using.
Yeah.
Because no one can actually tell me how water runoff from my property or the other 14 residents in Yellow Hill Road is impacting the city of Fall River. Not when we have over 3,000 acres of bioreserve around us. The Miller's Brook runs through Copacut Reservoir. It's been there for over 80 years to 100 years. I grew up in the area. It's an historic place, Friends of the Copacut Reservoir. They have a walking path through there. Mr. Miller, who built this farm there, built it for that reason. It's a natural flow of springs. Now, for some reason, there's a dry culvert, which you had difficulty finding, Mr. Chairman, today. You really had to look for it. Really had to look for it. And the only reason you can see it is because I take care of the road in that area and clean it up, because I think it's pretty cool. You see that little stone wall. I think it's very nostalgic.
I'm sure you do a good job of it.
You know, I try, I do my best. However, the impact is just so unclear to all of us at Yellow Hill Road. Some other residents, there's only 14 of us, who are taking a different stance, which I advise them not to. But I think they should go the process like I am. I think it's unfair, it's not just. There is no impact study, no engineering study, not even a botanist study that we are impacting the sewer system in Fall River.
But, so the stormwater fee is not for sewer impact, it's for stormwater impacts, whether it impacts a stormwater system, an MS4 system, which
I understand.
these culverts and the other culverts downstream from here are all part of the MS4 permit, the general permit from the state of Massachusetts, or any stormwater that impacts the sewer system. So this just so happens to be an MS4 separated area, because you all have your own independent on-site disposal systems, septic systems.
That we maintain.
Right, exactly,
Absolutely.
yep. So this is for the stormwater impacts in the separated area.
It's like, you know,
It's-
we don't have the curbing, the sidewalks with the elm trees, we don't have the fire hydrants to gas the water. When a tree comes down during inclement weather, the citizens of Yellow Hill Road take care of that. We don't call community maintenance.
Right,
We pretty much take care of ourselves out there. The one thing I can set my watch to is my trash pickup. And I know that has nothing to do with this board, and I don't wanna take up much more of your time. I know you have a long agenda, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, I just feel it's unfair. There is no reason why we have to pay a fee for a service that isn't being rendered, just because we live there.
Well, you're not the only resident in the city
No.
within the confines of Fall River, regardless if you're up in the Copacut area or right down the street,
I understand that, Mr.
that,
Chairman.
that, you know, has that problem as well.
I understand that, Mr. Chairman. You know, I live in Fall River. The assessor's office finds their way to communicate me in Fall River, but I have a Dartmouth mailing address. I can't even put Fall River on my return address. So I'm that far out on the edge of Fall River, and to be impacted by a fee for what Paul was saying, Paul, and I understand your posture, I really do, and I respect that.
right, correct.
However, it's just, over all these years being living, I'm 58 years old, I've been going out there since I was 8. For 50 years, now all of a sudden, there's some sort of fee we have to pay for services that aren't being rendered, not being rendered by this committee in any way, shape. There's no impact study, engineering study to prove that anything. Thank you for your time, though, Mr. Chairman, I appreciate it.
Okay. So, unless you gentlemen have anything else to say, or I'll entertain a motion to deny the appeals for, and we should do this, I'm gonna do this for your parents' property as well, because they're in, I'm sure they're in the same situation.
Yeah, well, you know, these fees are a week of groceries to them, sir.
Excuse me?
These fees, this fee every 4 months, that's a week's worth of groceries to them. People who lived and worked
No,
and were
I-
productive citizens in this city. That's the real reason.
We understand that, sir. We understand it. So, with respect to 360 and 300 Yellow Hill Road, will anybody make a motion to deny the appeals?
Yeah, I'll make a motion.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? None. Thank you for your time.
Yeah, thank you for yours,
All right.
Mr. Chairman.
Right. Okay, that takes us to item number 5, Conservation Law Foundation, a joint motion to amend the federal court order.
So, in front of you, I'm sure,
Terry, I'm sorry, Paul,
yes,
before you get going,
yep.
what came first? The EPA consent order or the CLF amended court order?
So, CLF, then we can do the actual EPA order came first, and the CLF order was, the joint motion was modeled after that. The spending plan that is attached to both of these was jointly decided probably about 4 years ago, even longer than that, excuse me, about 5 years ago, back when we started with the authorization to spend $123 million. First, we started with a independent authorization of $3.6 million to start studies back in 2016, and then we moved forward with the referendum ballot vote in November of 2017 for the $123 million spending plan. So these two, the joint motion to amend the federal court order with Conservation Law Foundation is modeled directly after that $123 million spending plan. There are some modifications to the spending plan. They all stay within the authorization modifications. We just took out one project and put in another project. And then the EPA order, again, is also modeled directly after that. So this takes, and it gives us two orders, one that EPA will have control of and one that CLF will have control of. I think that's an overall advantage to us not having, because the federal court order, we've always been under control. The plaintiff in that order was the Conservation Law Foundation alone. It was not EPA. Conservation Law Foundation filed suit against the city of Fall River for violation
Right.
of the Clean Water Act, which
Right.
is an EPA regulation.
Right.
Chairman, I know that you can probably school me on all this, because you were here when it
I
happened.
was there when it happened. And we also paid them $500,000 to, for court costs and everything else to go, that went with it,
Yeah,
but that's neither here nor there, right?
right.
Okay.
So, you know, I've been working over the past year with EPA and CLF to come up and kind of solidify and get into writing the $123 million spending plan that was authorized in November 2017.
Okay. I took some time to read the motion and so forth. You know, we put out a, when this whole thing starts taking place, we start measuring flows, you know, for chlorine and for fecal bacteria and so forth, coming out the outfalls down at Pleasant Avenue and down at Cove Street, because that's what part of this is gonna start with, right? You know, there's gonna be some work that's gonna be done to start gathering information and so forth on some type of timely basis. Now, when that's all taken place, does that information have to be incorporated into the quarterly, or what is it, monthly or quarterly report that goes to CLF through this office? Is that going to be in addition to all that information that goes with it?
There will be additional information that is provided, but one thing that this does help us do, not so much the joint order, but the EPA order, it helps us get rid of some of our other reporting requirements. So we've been under a reporting requirement for our SSO, sanitary sewer overflows, for a number of years now. That gets taken away and incorporated into a report that goes to EPA, one report on CSOs and SSOs. So there are.
So you think that's a good thing?
Yeah, we've tried to align most of the reporting, because, sometimes you have, this report needs to go to EPA, January 31st, this report needs to go to CLF February 15th, this one needs to be February 20th, and you're trying to keep track of all these dates. It makes it very tough. What we did through these two orders was modeled all the same reporting dates, so we know February 28th is our big day that all of our reports have to be into CLF and EPA.
Okay.
So there is some savings through there. Some of the stuff that's in here, a lot of the stuff that's in here, we've already been doing. We're already underway.
Well, I figured as much with respect to Cove Street and President Avenue, because it's already in place
Right.
for the,
Yep.
when you think about it. The chlorine part is from what I understand, the result of us treating what goes down through those two locations.
Yep.
And as a result of a major, rainstorm, if there's a major rainstorm where this has to go to the outflow, then there's a potential of what chlorine was being used, made it to that outfall, and then that's the problem. Am I correct?
Yeah, so there's a couple of different things that EPA was unhappy with when they reviewed our data. There was some accusations that they made that we believe we proved were unfounded in relation to chlorine. They still feel we never came to an agreement, and we kind of left it as an unfounded accusation. One of their claims was that we were discharging, concentrated water with chlorine out to the bay. When they look at what they call, chlorinated water out to the bay, 0.01 milligrams per liter, so it's a minute amount. The EPA approved measuring meter, the HOC meter that we use, 0.01 and 0.02 is within percent error of the meter. So that essentially could be a zero. So that's why I say that, it was something that they made their case on, we made our points on, and I think we kind of both decided that we didn't want to, go further on discussions. They kept their ideas, we kept our ideas, and we kept moving forward on a mutual agreement to try to move forward.
So the moving forward is, okay, we gotta start measuring it.
Yeah, so, and we have been measuring it. The monitoring plan that is in place here is the monitoring plan that's been in place since 2015 when we completed President F screen and disinfection plan. They do want an updated monitoring plan, so I expect that they will be requesting some additional monitoring. But we've been having good discussions on what that might be within the limitations of our facilities, within the limitations of labs that do the testing. If you're talking about say you're talking about doing fecal coliform testing, every hour within the first hour of the storm, and then every 4 hours thereafter. Well, you can only hold a fecal for 8 hours. So if it happens at 2 o'clock in the morning on a Sunday morning, how are we supposed to get those 4 samples to the lab on a rainstorm that lasts a day? We're discharging for, let's say 10 hours or 12 hours. There's no practical way to be able to coordinate all that and have a lab that's open to be able to run that testing and everything. So, they're understanding the points that we're making about modifications to the testing and the limitations that are physically there that we won't be able to overcome, so.
And looking through it, I came to the point where they've basically got what I think to be some pretty stringent schedules on, where they want us to start drawing information out of it, and, to me, I don't know, it looked like some of them are gonna be pretty tight. I mean, it looks like we're gonna be measuring all the way down the line, all the way down to the wastewater treatment plant, to that, from what I can see. Do you feel comfortable that we're gonna be able to meet those schedules? Because you know,
There are,
I'm kind of like on the fence about it. I'm, you know, and they're saying, you know, if you don't provide the information on time and this and that, you know, you're gonna get fined this, and if it's so many days, it's this, and so forth and so on, and I'm like, Paul's gonna be growing more gray hair, and so forth. Now, is CDM supposed to get involved with this for us?
so we will be looking at different consultants to be involved. There are a couple of studies that we'll be doing right off the bat. One would be a river impact study. So there's a lot of different things going on right now with the river. We currently do boat sampling 4 times a year. That boat sampling needs to be done within 48 hours of a storm that lasts more than an hour. We go out in the boat and we sample a day after the storm or a day and a half after a storm right now. And we're getting some really interesting results. That's potentially 3 to 4 tide cycles after our discharge. We're getting interesting results. We feel that those results may be coming from upstream and coming down. So what we want to do is be able to look at the whole entire river and kind of figure out where our discharge might go and where it may be when we're sampling out in a boat after a storm. So that's the one thing that we're going to be doing. And you know, there is another study that we want to look to optimize our current CSO facilities. So one of the changes that I mentioned is through the original $123 million, we were looking to do a facility, screening and disinfection facility, at the Alton Street CSO site.
Yeah.
EPA was not 100% keen on that, just because of the chlorine issues that we discussed. The substitute for that was to do sewer separation within the Birch Street drainage area. So that's the one big change. Birch Street drainage area is a fairly decent sized drainage area, south end of the city. We'll be going and doing some drainage separation up above that and the streets above that, pulling out I&I to bring that CSO down below the 3-month storm as required by a federal court order. You know, that's going to be a lengthy project. We'd like to kind of get moving on design sooner rather than later with that project, because that one's going to be one that's bumping up against the deadline of 2024. So that is one. You know, some of the other things that are in these orders, contract 1, which is already we're completing now.
Yeah.
As you know, contract 2 just went into place. So those are included within these orders. The monitoring at all the different CSO facilities, all the different CSO outfalls is already in place except for one of them we'll have to add. So a lot of these things, you know, and I know you look at the whole entire thing and it sounds like a really lot of stuff that needs to be done. But like I said, since 2017, we've been working on this.
Okay.
We've been moving forward with this plan, even though we didn't have these documents to solidify it with the federal court order and EPA. We were still moving forward with the project because that's the commitment that we made, and that's the authorization and approval that we had from the voters to be able to move forward with.
Is any of that information that you're gonna be monitoring and so forth, or we're gonna be monitoring, is that part of the SCADA system?
So it doesn't come back to the SCADA system. So, excuse me. So our President Ave facility and our Cove Street facility go back to the plant through SCADA. The other monitoring that we do at the other CSOs is a different. It's a cloud-based system that we by a package system. We have monitors within each CSO outfall, and they have a cellular packet that they send the information to a cloud-based system.
Gotcha. I got you.
Yep.
Okay.
So that's how we track all the CSO stuff. You know, with moving forward, so, you know, and as the commission knows, with this $123 million loan authorization that we've had, and this doesn't end our CSO issues. You know, it brings more of our CSOs into compliance with the requirement of the federal court order.
Also brings it more into light,
Yeah.
which is, makes you vulnerable to other things, but,
Without a doubt, you know, you look at CSOs and other things and where are they gonna go. One other thing, you know, with our current screening and disinfection facilities, they've been operating well. But we're looking at possibly studying a different technology, something that we piloted at the wastewater treatment plant back when we did the wastewater treatment plant study 3 years ago, which includes, it's almost a primary filtration. So that would be, rather than doing a large CSO facility that has serpentine tanks for disinfection and everything like that, we'd be looking to send these through a rotating filter. We'd be sending the effluent coming through the CSO, we'd be sending it through a rotating filter that would take out any larger debris or any larger, you know, colloids that may flow through the water.
Right.
After that, we may be able to potentially use a UV disinfection rather than having to use chlorine disinfection. So it wouldn't have anything
adverse effects.
to
Yeah.
the environment.
That'd be good.
So, yeah, that's something that, you know, that we're gonna be able to study with one of the studies within these, within the changes that we made from the original conception of this plan. But, you know, again, so currently our federal court, and just to update, you know, remind you, currently our federal court order states that we have to have both Alton Street and City Pier below the 3-month storm by sewer separation by 2025. That's not gonna happen.
Be tough.
No, that would be to do City Pier and Alton Streets, sewer separation, we'd be talking hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars.
Yeah, I was gonna say, we just blew the $123 million bond.
Without a doubt. So, this federal court order, takes and removes that requirement and substitutes the requirements that are in here, which was all part of the $123 million authorization.
Well, I'm glad to hear that. At least somebody, you know, looked out for our interests. If that was you, thank you very much. All right, so what do you need with respect to what? You want us to approve ratifying the, I call it an amendment to the existing court order. But is that what you're looking for?
It's a joint motion for amendment to the existing federal court order, and I would be looking for approval of it. So just the process that we'll be going with this would be, the commission will approve, it will then be sent up to the mayor to send to city council with an order for approval from the city council.
Oh, really? They
Yeah.
gotta go to city council?
Yeah, all the amendments have gone to city council.
Okay.
So,
Anybody have any questions about this?
'Cause
Any
it's
comments you wanna make about it?
Because it's a joint order, is this one motion for both? Because it's,
both parties so far, we have agreed on this.
Yeah.
You know, in discussions, so it is both parties filing this to the judge. So once we sign, Conservation Law Foundation would have to sign, then it would have to go to the judge for the judge's approval. So, and if the board would desire, I would also ask that they allow any minor modifications or edits to this, as I just received some later today from CLF. It was just more grammatical type stuff, and there was one attachment they wanted adjusted.
That's fine.
Okay, having said all that, anybody wanna make a motion to approve the joint motion to amend the federal court order to include any modifications that may be added, that are also in process right now, as Paul indicated, that he has to address and add to the court order. So anybody wanna make that motion?
Make a motion that we accept item number 5, conservation law foundations,
A second.
including,
Okay, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? None? The ayes have it. Item number 6, the Environmental Protection Agency. Again, I read through that. It takes, it uses much stronger language and so forth, but it's basically sort of a carbon copy of what the CLF said, am I right?
Yes.
Okay, so with respect to that, I mean, I'm not trying to stop you from what you're saying, but just for where we're going for this, are you looking for us to acknowledge the receipt of it?
It would be almost the same, so my plan would be to take the joint court order as well as the administrative order of consent to the city council at the same time for their approval for
Okay.
execution.
All right, I'm sorry to interrupt you with respect to that. If there's, you go ahead if there's something you wanna say.
Yeah, so, I just wanted to talk a little bit, administrative order of consent from the EPA. Sometimes that sounds, bad to people. And
Yeah,
if-
I've had to deal with a few of them in my past experience.
If it is one where the EPA has the right to come down and file a consent order against us. At that point, if we were in disagreement with that consent order, we would have the right to be able to challenge that consent order through legal rights. This one again is a voluntary consent order that we'd be looking to go and be party to. It parallels the CLF order. Again, it parallels the $123 million spending plan with the minor modifications that I discussed a little while ago on the CLF. So, again, we have the ability to say, no, we don't want this, but then they have the ability to just sign it and enforce it on us. And at that point, if they were able to come in and prove violation on anything, which I don't feel we were in violation of anything, then they would be eligible to fine.
Yeah,
So,
Yeah.
Again, this is something that paralleled paralleled the joint order. Again, it's keeping EPA as a separate independent party. It's not allowing them to be party to
Yeah.
a federal court order, which I think is good for us. There's language in both of them that if there are inconsistencies or anything in between the two, the parties will work with us. So, I think, and this isn't to be taken lightly. This is an extremely, extremely big endeavor that the city's taken on, and it was a big one that the city took on with the $123 million spending plan. One thing that we have with both of these orders, one thing that we have right now in our favor is that the city has been awarded a large sum of ARPA money, which is the American Rescue Act plan of 2021.
were you up at the, A Lady of Light, presentation for the, what they're hopefully trying to do?
Yep, so I was at the Our Lady of Light, public meeting that they had. There was a lot of people there that had different ideas. There was probably about 40 to 50 people that were there, that were, the public, and there was probably about 15 or 18 speakers that came up to give different ideas. There were two of the speakers that were up there that promoted the funding for the use of water and sewer, which I feel is where all the funding should go.
I'll second.
I think some of the funding should go to other things, but I'm gonna advocate for our department, water and sewer.
Okay. One of the things, on the EPA packet that came in was this breakdown.
Yep.
And just for my benefit, if you would, the original master plan projects loan order of 123 million, which was the bond issue, correct?
Yep.
Okay, you're saying it's, all that's in here?
Yeah, so with this sheet, the one thing, if you look at the total, it's 126.8. So that included, the initial $3.8 million authorization that was approved, prior to the 123. So it's the 123 plus the 3.8, is everything that's in the EPA order.
Okay. I think my problem was this report that I have is missing some of this information. And that's where I'm getting a little bit like, where's this money gonna come from and so forth and so on? But you're telling me it's in the 123.
Yeah, so I think the report that you have there, is the, spending to date report, which also has some of the future projects, projected projects laid out. I don't
Yeah,
think-
okay, in that case, yeah, it's
Yeah.
based on spending and so forth, so some of these projects haven't hit this list yet as a result of that. Okay.
Correct.
Okay, very good. Yeah, because I looked at it. In some ways, though, a lot of it, not to minimize it, but a lot of it's small money.
You know, when you add up, it is, you know, you get, and small money exactly, not to minimize it, but when you get $1 million projects or $2 million projects, but when you add up the conglomerate of all those small
Yeah,
projects,
yeah.
it adds up quickly, it's tough.
Yeah, it adds up quickly, and, you know, each step has to be dealt with accordingly and so forth, and, you know, all of it has, each step that's here is just as important as any other step that's there.
Without a
Because it's,
doubt.
because the majority of what's here is all gonna affect the CLF people and the EPA people. So, yeah, so, I,
It's all
where does, again, I saw some information put in that was done on the CLF part, that was done by CDM. You know, where they, you know, they
Yep.
told us how much it's gonna, how long it's gonna take, what's involved and so forth. Has that been resolved out with just what their part in this whole thing's gonna be?
So what was provided in the CLF packet as attachments was a photocopy of, that came from the CSO feasibility study that CDM did for us. So that's why their name was on it. It was a report that CDM did for us.
A while back.
Yeah, it was probably, they completed that about 2 to 3 years ago. So that's why, and that was just attachments, because that lays out the projects that are included in here. CDM may do some of these projects that, you know, as you know, contract 1, CDM was involved in, contract 2, CDM is involved in. The CSO, the pump stations, Wright Pierce.
Wright Pierce is-
Wright Pierce and
right.
Woodward and Curran have both been involved with it.
Right.
The asset management in CMMS has been, Wright Pierce has been involved with that. So, you know, we're not tied to any engineering firm, we don't have allegiance to anybody.
Okay.
You know, I feel that we follow mass procurement laws for acquiring any of our consultants, and we choose the best consultant to be able to do that project for us.
You know, I got no problem with that, and I see where you're coming from, but I saw where their involvement with it in terms of telling us what we may expect if we do this and so forth.
Yep.
I was under the impression that they had done this fairly recent because they, you know, CLF wanted to add that information, but what you're telling me was already done, had been done in the past, has probably been paid for, and so
Yep.
be it, okay.
Yeah,
I'm satisfied.
And for full disclosure too, CDM has been working with me on both the amendment with EPA and the court order.
Okay.
They have been assisting me with that process, so,
Good.
just so that everybody's
Good.
clear.
You're gonna need all the assistance you can get.
It's a lot of work in a short amount of time, but I'm confident that our team will be able to do it.
All right, so do you want us to make a motion to acknowledge the EPA order, or do you just, is this for information?
Nope, same thing as the CLF order, this will have to go to the state to approve the order. And again, if we could also add on the caveat, if there's any minor grammatical or other minor changes that need to be addressed, that I can do it administratively.
Okay, anybody wanna make that motion as so stated?
I'll make the motion.
Second?
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, none? The ayes have it. Very good. All right, that takes us to change order number 1 to contract 5, water meter replacement supply of AMI equipment. We're looking to, I guess, add $284,589 to the existing contract, because we need more water meters, because, you know, the demand, we're finding out that there is a demand for more water meters than what we thought.
So the contract includes additional AMRs, which is the box that goes on the side of the house, as well as some additional water meters too. The reason that we have to, that we increased that, originally when we planned out the project, we planned on doing AMRs through 50% of the city. Once we got into the contract, and we got into the different systems and meter reading systems we were using, we opted to do 100% of the city for the AMR replacement. With the newer boxes, we feel that the cost savings that we'll get from having the extended warranty on the new AMR boxes overall would be financially beneficial for us. The reason that we have to increase the meters is through the project. Any house that we've gone to where we were unable to just replace the AMR box from the outside of the house, if we had to go in to correct the wiring or something like that, we were also replacing the meter at that time, because I feel that's a very costly endeavor, gaining entrance to somebody's house. So if we're there
Do it.
to replace the meter, it's time to do it. So going from that 50% of the city up to the 100% of the city, this cost is being incurred for additional AMI units and additional meters.
So this change order, somebody's gonna go out, correct me if I'm wrong, somebody's gonna go out and issue a PO to such and such a company, an amount of $284,000 worth of meters. Those meters are gonna be, I'm assuming, kept on a shelf at the supplier of the meter, except that we own them. So we're gonna call them out as we need them.
So they come, they,
Or are we gonna have, take all these meters in all at once and shelve them somewhere?
nope, so we submit orders as we need them, or as our contractor needs them. So our contractor currently has a storage containers up by 1620 Bedford Street in the Water Department. So they're accepting the meters on an order basis, so they may place an order for, let's say, a pallet of meters, which has, I think, 200 meters on it. Or they may place an order for a pallet of AMRs, which has 484 AMRs on a pallet. So they don't say, they're not gonna say, here's 3,000 meters, find out where to put them.
Right, yeah, they don't do that.
Yeah. Now, this is the sewer commission's portion of this project that's initiated through the water department.
Yeah, so initially, if you go back to the inception of the project, this has been a long-running project. It probably started about 4 years ago. We were planning on, the water department authorized an authorization of $3.5 million to carry out this project. The water department has burdened the majority of the cost of this project upgrade and the sewer commission, is asked to burden some of this cost. Because, again, as the commission knows, which is for edification of everybody, the water meters is how we bill for sewer. So the water that passes through the water meter, and the CCFs that are read on that water meter is the CCFs that we use to be able to bill for our sewer usage.
Just make it like 100% of the city can be, you can get that information now, as opposed to sending out a meter reader or something.
Yeah, exactly. So now, this system, this new AMI system that we have, and we've been having good luck. Mr. Ty and his staff have been spearheading the program. We used to have to either send a meter reader out to read an area, or we had a meter reader that spent some time driving around to get all the meter readings. Now we have, with this whole system, the upgraded AMR boxes, and the fixed base system that we installed on some of our water storage tanks. We're now able to get all that information right back to the computers here at City Hall, almost real time, for water usage within houses. The new system, we don't need to send anybody out unless we're not getting reads from specific residents. So we don't need to send somebody out. So we gained efficiencies within the department to be able to take and do other tasks that may not have been done in the past. So it reduces our time spent on reading. It increases our accuracy through Neptune's 360 online software. We're able to now get better reporting on possible leaks on meters or other things. We're also able to get look back and see potentially when somebody had a leak. The program's interesting. You can look at it sometimes and see, okay, your leak started this day because your usage went up to here, and it stopped this day. You know, it's a pretty interesting system. So
Very good.
so
Okay.
just one thing, if I can take a second for edification of the public too. We still are in this process. We are going through the meter replacements. So Felch Engineering, our contractor, is still out there, WMS or Felch Engineering. That's the contractors that are doing the meter replacement. They're still replacing some AMRs on the side of the house, so that doesn't require any interaction with the customer. They just go into the yard, replace the AMR on the side of the house, and then leave. If they do need to get into the house to replace the meter or the wiring, they do send out a mailer, so it's a postcard that says, give this phone number a call. We need to gain access. We're working with the Florida Water Department. We need to gain access, but they will send you a card. Nobody will knock on your door randomly and say, hey, we need to get in. You can call that phone number, schedule an appointment, then a technician will come out. Some people that we've sent 3 notifications to and haven't gotten a response to, they're now doing door hangers. So a little door hanger on the front door or the side door of the house to, again, say, hey, we need to gain access to the property. Call this number to schedule an appointment. You shouldn't let anybody in without a pre-scheduled appointment or anything like that.
Yeah.
So,
Very
just
good.
for the edification.
Sounds like everybody's got a good system going with it. Matter of fact, we're having a meter change tomorrow.
Excellent.
We got a notice. The thing I found unique about it was, they already, when they send out these cards, they already have the work order number already on it.
Yep.
Telling you, when you call up, all you gotta do is tell them what the work order number is. They bring everything up and say, okay, we'll be there at 1 o'clock tomorrow if you're gonna be around.
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah, it's a nice system.
Excellent. Good.
Okay, so we need an approval to approve the amendment, all right, change order. Number 1 to contract number 5 in the amount of $284,589.89 for the purchase of additional water meters. Anybody want to make that motion?
Make a motion.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? None? The ayes have it. Thank you, Paul. An update of the fiscal year 22 budget and rates.
So,
I definitely need an enlightenment on what's going on because,
I wanted to bring this in front of the commission, to make you aware of the situation that we're currently in. So I'll do a little recap of the process, the budget process as it's going through so far this year, and the issues that we're currently facing. So our budget was submitted, back in March, 23rd, I believe it was. I submitted it to the,
Yep.
to the city council, to the city clerk. That's when our budget was submitted. And that's when the rates are required to be in, but I have the rates complete, I have the budget done at the same time. I put both the rates and the budgets, in at the same time.
correct.
They went to, council, were referred to finance, and, there wasn't any action on those. Once the city, general fund submitted their full rate book, they submitted it, I believe it was May 11th or 12th, or when did that take, but it was somewhere around there. It went to the council had started having some discussions on it. There was full budget hearings. As I'm sure some of the commissioners saw, I was in front of ordinance a couple of times discussing the rate increases that were proposed this year. I was in front of them, had the discussion. I was asked to be at another meeting. The first time I was there to discuss it, they tabled it. I was asked to be at another meeting where they didn't lift it from the table. I was asked to be at a third meeting, again, which it wasn't discussed at that meeting. The fourth meeting, I was scheduled on vacation. That meeting, it was made leave to withdraw. That was towards the end of June. And that's from the ordinance committee, leave to withdraw. At that point, and this is coming up to the end of June, the city council was having their overall budget meetings, which I was in front of council and spoke on our budget and presented our budget to the council, as did all other department heads that the council requested to be there for the general fund budget. It came to the end of June, and there wasn't any, from what's been explained to me, there was no action on the budget to either approve, reject, or reduce the budget. In a proper manner, as approved by the rules that govern the city council. They couldn't just flat out reject the budget. There is provisions in Massachusetts general law as well as the city charter that once a budget is submitted, after 45 days with no action by the city council, that the budget will be enacted on July 1. And that is the route that the administration went to have the budget approved. The administration sent to the council saying that no action has been taken. The budget will be enacted on July 1 as per the Massachusetts state law and the city charter. So at that point, my rates our rates were then brought out of ordinance with a leave to withdraw. But in full council, they still could have been voted up or acted on differently. That was just a recommendation from the ordinance committee. That night, they were later in the night, they brought up the rates, and a motion in full council for leave to withdraw was made.
Let me stop you there.
Yep.
Had they done that, what would that have meant?
So that would have meant that if they approved the leave to withdraw in full council, that means that the rates are out and any process would have to be started over.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
I can understand why they didn't get that.
well, they didn't,
But,
It wasn't- it
but
wa-
they made life, very
Right.
difficult.
It wasn't approved, so the leave to withdraw in full council was not approved. It didn't pass. But there was no other action taken on it, so nobody made an action to approve, nobody made an action to table, nobody made an action to object. So by the rules of order that govern the city council, since there was no action on it, it's the same exact thing as a leave to withdraw. So it's not in council, it's not in ordinance, it's null and void
It
at this
reverts
point.
back to the original.
So, again, we're back starting the process over again for rates.
Isn't, to me, the real problem was that our rates didn't make it to the ordinance committee to be acted upon, to be, so that it could be in effect. In other words, had we gone to ordinance and made all the changes like was recommended and so forth, that was presented to them, had they done that, and there was still, let's say, some problems that the city council had with the budget, and as a result, because of all this thing that was going on, after 45 days, that the budget supposedly went into effect, the mayor exercised his right to do it, and had our rates going through ordinance at that point, we'd be in good shape.
If our rates were approved prior, which I feel that, our rates are required to be down before April 1st to the city council. There's a
That's
reason
correct.
that they require, any rate increases, let me state it correctly, any rate increases are required to be to city council by April 1st. There's a reason that we are submitting them so early, so they're aware. Our budgets need to be done prior to March 1st, so end of April. Like I said, May, excuse me. I submit both my rates and my budget at the same time. If our budget, and this is kind of sidetracking, if, looking back, our budget was actually approved on May 11th, 45 days from the day it was submitted to the council. Our budget was already approved prior to the general fund budget being approved. So as of May 1st, and I think years ago that there was that ordinance was put in place to have enterprise funds prior, so that enterprise funds discussions could happen. And I think this is where you go, enterprise funds discussions could happen, rate increase discussions could happen, and they could be approved and in place for the start of the new fiscal year. We dealt with this last year, where we missed 2 months of revenue because the same exact thing happened to us last year.
Yeah, we went to the 112 budget and so forth and so on, right?
Yeah, well, our budget was approved. Sewer commission, water board budgets were approved. We never went to 112. Our budgets were approved separate from the general fund.
Yeah, gotcha.
But our rates were not approved, and then they were not approved till July. At that point, we missed the first 2 months' revenue, because we've already done July's billing, we're already in the process of August billing, so we don't have the ability to change the rates at that time for those two billings, so we missed 2 months.
So we're gonna be in the same boat right now.
At this point, we're gonna be in a worse boat, because we're probably looking at missing the whole entire first quarter, which is over $157,000 in revenue.
Has anybody come to you to start getting the ball rolling about putting this stuff into ordinance? And if not,
none-
how do we?
Yeah, there hasn't been any discussions with the councilors, and that's why I wanted to talk to the commission, there's a couple of options that we have, here. Just to discuss the budget a little bit and the rate increase, there are some really, really bad options that we have, but, everybody's always looking for ideas, so I'm gonna
Right.
put everything out on the table. The rate increase that we were looking for in sewer was, 7 cents on the sewer, fee, $1 per quarter on the stormwater fee.
Right.
And that averaged out to $7.71 per year for the average household. Brings our sewer rate up to $5.66 per CCF and $47 per quarter per ERU for the stormwater. So, within the budget, within the FY '22 budget, we're using $1.92 million of retained earnings. So we're using all of the retained earnings from FY '19 in the '22 budget to minimize the rate increase. That's a huge amount of free cash that we're using within the budget. So that equals 73 cents on the rate, if we would. So we're already subsidizing 73 cents on the rate by using our free cash from FY '19. So, as I mentioned, to date, right now, if we miss the first 3 months, the first quarter, which I project that we would, even if we were able to go back, because if we were to go back to ordinance, we would have to present it to the full council. You can't just have an ordinance go to ordinance committee. It has to go to the full council. Ordinance is a weird committee, has to go to the full council, and it has to be referred by the full council to ordinance committee. Then the ordinance committee would have to have a meeting. If out of that meeting there was a recommendation to the full council, it could go back to full council. An ordinance has to go through first reading at one meeting, and then a second reading and ordination, unless there's emergency preamble, which I don't know if this meets grounds for emergency preamble.
Right.
So if we miss the first quarter, we start off in a deficit of 157,000, right off the bat in FY '22.
So if you resubmit that, you'd have to either increase the rates for the rest of the year.
Yep.
And then you'd be more in line with what, instead of taking it from reserve for the following year.
Yep, exactly. So, recommendation number one would be to increase the sewer fee by 1 cent, to make it 8 cents increase, to make it.
And that would cover you around 157?
That would cover us in the revenue on the rest of the months to make up that,
But are you saying that 157,000 represents the first quarter of the year?
Difference.
The
Difference
loss
between
of, by not having the increase in place.
Oh, okay, I get you.
By not having the increase in place.
You're
So-
losing 157, okay.
Right, so across the whole entire year, the increase, the 7 cents on the sewer and the $1 on the stormwater equates to about $326,000. That's what the increase was on the budget. So,
Okay.
157 would be in the first quarter. So, my strongest option would be to increase the sewer usage fee by 1 cent for a total of 8 cent increase. That would make the proposed sewer usage fee $5.67.
Now, we didn't do anything like that though last year.
No, last
And
year.
the reason we didn't, because we pulled up, part of it was we pulled $1.9 million of free cash to make up for it, right?
Yep.
So, we could do the same thing next year if we have a certain amount of money, enough to make up for what we lost.
Correct. So, right, so,
I'm just thinking that, we go ahead and, do what you basically said, jack the rate up another penny to initiate the loss there. And then having to go through, the process again, and going into the city council and everything else, and, there was some issues already with us having brought it up 7 cents, and.
oh, it's definitely gonna be a tough battle and a tough challenge
Yeah.
to get that approved.
The thing I'm concerned about is, I don't hear anything like, hey, we gotta get this whole thing straightened out, let's get going. And, let's get what's supposed to be an ordinance into ordinance so people can go out and, you know, build properly and so forth and so on. I'm not hearing anything like that.
You
And
know,
we're being left in limbo.
100%, you know, I feel that, you know, there's a lot of things going on right now within the city, and I think, you know, my personal opinion is that we may be a bit of collateral damage,
Absolutely.
being
That's-
left in limbo with
That's
that.
basically it, we're collateral damage as a result of it. Okay. All right, so,
So that's one option. Another option, again, would be to reduce the budget, not have a rate increase and reduce the budget. Areas that we could reduce the budget, reduction of overhead that we pay to the city, totals $1.48 million that we pay back to the general fund for those services that the city provides to the sewer division. We would directly ask them to reduce that. They're gonna say no, because then they have to find
Yeah.
that three hundred and
they're gonna be in the same
twenty-six
boat as
thousand
everybody
dollars
else,
somewhere in their budget.
right?
But, you know, it's an option, it's something, it's a large sum of money that we pay back for services that we're provided by the general fund. Reduction of sewer capital, we carried $80,000 within sewer capital. You know, that means that the Stecco truck that we're planning on replacing the bed on, to be able to use it, is gonna sit idle for a year because it's unsafe to use, it's gonna be tagged out. You know, so, again, it's a bad option, but I wanna put everything out there, in front of people.
Yeah.
You know, the last thing on my list here would be cuts in staff. You know, based on it, if there was no rate increase this year, we'd be talking about a cut of staff of 13 people between this office and the plant.
Now,
With
Are
all the
you-
extra additional requirements that we have to meet with, yeah.
Right.
So-
You know, again, it's an option.
between a rock and a hard place,
Yeah.
that's what it is.
You know, there are two other options that are even less desirable than these. And again, for true transparency, I'm gonna lay them all out to the commission.
Go ahead.
We do have a substantial amount of stabilization fund, $700,000. Massachusetts DOR and all advisors say that you should have 10% of your budget, which for us would equate to $2.6 million in our stabilization fund. Over the past 8 years, we were able to get up to the $700,000 that we have. We could take that $326,000 from
Apply it, yes.
stabilization, put it into the budget. Horrible idea, very, very bad idea.
Yep.
We're saving, again, that's a rainy day fund. You know, 7 years ago, 8 years ago, we had zero. You know, Mr. Sullivan came in front of this commission and the city council and moved forward with a plan to be able to start a stabilization fund so that we do have money for a rainy day or a large disaster to be able to support ourselves. You know, lucky enough, due to the pandemic, we didn't need to reach into our stabilization fund. Other areas, just for example, Boston Water and Sewer, in their FY 20 budget, they used 35 million from their stabilization
Wow.
because they didn't have the revenue. Think of Boston, everybody was out of Boston.
Oh, sure.
Businesses were closed, everything was
Yeah.
shut down.
Nobody's using water and
Right.
everything else.
So, you know, if we had a $5-10 million stabilization fund, I'd say, well, let's do it, but we don't have that. And the next bad option would be to take and transfer money in December or January that will be certified as free cash from FY 21, the year that we just closed out. Take money from that certified free cash, plug it into FY 22's budget to make up that gap. But again, that starts to create a snowball effect.
Following you.
The following year, we need to make up that
Right.
that money, because we're not gonna have it in the free cash to be able to plug into that year's
Rather than
budget.
Peter to pay
Well,
Paul, and then-
okay. Has anybody come to you, and said, hey, you know, be prepared to, give us some options as to how you think the sewer commission wants to go, to make up any shortfalls that you're experiencing?
I've had discussions with the administration, and the financial team about our options. I did let them know that I was gonna be talking to the commission, and I will, I wanted to talk to the commission, get.
Do you foresee, if something's gonna be done, do you want the commission to, in effect, give you the okay as
Yeah.
to which one?
Yeah, so,
I mean,
again,
well,
I'm not looking.
this is, that's a given. I
Yeah.
mean, if it comes to the point where, hey, listen, we gotta do something, and they're throwing the ball in our court
Mhm.
as to what needs to be done to make up whatever shortfall, and just to get things going right again. That's our job.
Right.
You know, and we'll give you whatever support you need
Yeah.
to do that. Provided that, you know, the numbers that's being presented are accurate, and we'll do the job.
Correct.
So you can expect from us, you know, whatever support you need in that way,
Yeah.
okay?
So, I wanted to bring it to the commission's attention. The earliest that I feel that we'd be able to get anything, I think the August 14th meeting of the city council would be the earliest that we'd be able to get something on, so we would need anything submitted to the city clerk prior to that to be on that agenda.
Mhm.
So I wanted to bring it to the committee's attention if there was any type of motions or actions from the board at this time. I could move forward. If not, we can table this matter, and I'd be more than happy to schedule another meeting prior to that.
Okay,
Prior to that time, so that we would have time to be able to prepare something and have it in
did
front
you
of the
say
council.
the next city council meeting is
I
on?
believe it's August 14th.
14, okay. Who's that, finance?
That's-
Probably.
An agenda's not out yet, so that's the scheduled full council meeting. They typically have finance and then full council. I don't
Okay.
think-
So just to be clear, the budget is approved,
Yes,
but the rates obviously to support that budget haven't been.
Yeah.
And so that's where,
yep,
we now need to deal with that.
yeah, exactly. So we need, and I'm gonna have an additional conversation with our financial team, but administratively, I'll most likely be writing a letter to DOR, letting them know currently, because every year I need to certify to DOR that our rates support our budget. Usually as they're going through the certifying process of the prior fiscal year's budget. I'm probably gonna be writing them now to let them know that our rates do not support our budget. I'll probably also be alerting DEP and EPA on that, just to let them know at this current time, our rates do not support our budget. We're trying to work through that issue and come up with the appropriate financing to support our budget.
And we're not the only department where they've got a problem. I mean, from what I understand, there's salaries and stuff like that on the city side that they haven't gone through ordinance and stuff like that.
Correct, their salaries of water department is in the same exact boat as you, as
Yeah.
sewer commission. The rates, water and sewer rates parallel through the whole entire process.
All right, thanks, Terry, appreciate it. I guess that kind of brings us up to speed on that. Let's hope for the best.
Very cool.
Okay, next item is septic haulage request,
Question.
Flowmaster Septic, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Do we need to in any way approve for you to add a different, in other words, the ordinance, so we have to increase that rate to make it work in three
I think,
quarters of the years? He's
I
gotta-
think that's something that has to be decided as an option to do.
Okay.
And that, has to be discussed, those options have to be discussed with the financial people and so forth.
Right.
Yeah, and again, my plan was to update the commission where we are. and where we're looking to go.
Right.
Probably have another meeting prior to the August city council meeting to see
Yeah.
whether the commission wants to move forward
Okay.
with a different rate increase.
Okay, unless anybody has any other questions or comments, Richard, you all set?
No, yes.
You all set? I'll move to item number 9. Septic hauling request, Flowmaster Septic. I guess from reading the correspondence of this company at one point in time, requested it back in 2017. Evidently it didn't happen. I guess they didn't get their trucks inspected and so forth. They had a change in the operating of the company, and now they're coming back and asking if they can now utilize the wastewater treatment plant. You got any problems with these people, sir?
No, again, they were approved. We noticed administratively that they never got their trucks inspected. It was because of a bad accident that the owner had. The company kind of went, wasn't being used for a while, so they worked through their issues and they're requesting, but we have not had any negative issues with them.
Okay. Unless anybody has any questions regarding this, or feel as though we shouldn't do it, I'll entertain a motion to approve the okay of Flowmaster Corporation discharging septic waste at the sewer treatment plant.
Make a motion.
Second.
All in favor, aye.
Aye.
All opposed, none, the ayes have it. Update on ongoing projects. I think,
Yeah, within the packet, there wasn't much, but I think at the last meeting, last week, we discussed contract 2 that was ongoing. We're closing out President Ave Pump Station, sewer pump station, South End Pump Station. We're waiting for the contractor to come in to finish the final yard
I went
work.
by it the other day, and it looks like things have been, stopped. And, for whatever reason, I mean, even the sign that was up on a fence, saying this is the project of wastewater treatment plant, and so forth, it's gone.
Yeah, so the, that station is the new station's fully functional and operational. The contractor was just working through the abatement of hazardous materials within the old station, and then to be able to get the building permit and stuff like that took him some time, but he currently does have, not building permit, the demolition permit.
Good.
He currently does have that permit, and it probably should be underway soon.
Good. Okay, unless, that takes us, because that's informational purposes only, and, takes us to item 11, other potential matters. Anybody have any other matters they want to discuss? If not, any motion to adjourn?
I have a question.
Shoot.
The pumping station at Jefferson Street.
Okay.
The new one that they just,
Yep, 994 Jefferson, South
Yeah.
End, yep.
how long is it gonna take to remove the dirt pile that they have there? In
So-
that storage area that I just talked to you about?
Yep, so the contractor should be in when they do the demolition of the building. I know the demo permit was just issued, I think it was earlier this week.
Okay.
So when they come in, the site contractor comes in to do the demo of the building.
Right.
He'll be hauling any excess out, because they're using that to backfill the area.
Right.
And
And
then-
are they gonna remove, after they're complete, they're gonna remove all that stuff that was in it?
Yep, all that stuff will be brought out. I know there's still some pipes and stuff from the site work that was done.
Okay.
Everything will be hauled out of there, and that'll be left to be able to use.
You have
by-
security cameras there, huh?
We have a camera, that camera came with the project. We've had it on the project throughout the project, and we'll be able to move it to other future projects.
Good. All right, anybody, you have anything else? No?
I'm
Okay,
all
I'll
set.
entertain a motion to adjourn.
We have to sign
I'll make a
something,
motion.
Olga?
Richard,
No.
Richard, would you second a motion to adjourn?
Yes.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you,
I saw it.
gentlemen.
I saw a
Appreciate it.
piece of paper that